Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Ruby Summer Rose Court. To recap where we left off last time, we returned to Beacon from the dimension of Heping, and we actually met John for the very first time after a skirmish with the Grimm. And now we are at a award ceremony where we are promoting him to Queensguard. So, let's dive right back in. I just want this to be over with. A warm hand rests on top of my head, giving it a fond ruffle. You'll be fine, Ruby. Huh? Blake, when did you get here? Blake doesn't respond. Don't look at me, I had my eyes on the door this whole time. So I look to my right to where Sershni is standing. She just shrugs. I've gotten used to the counselor appearing whenever she wants. It's not very safe, but it's Blake, so... Blake stares at me in silence for a moment, and just when I think I'm not going to get any kind of answer, she slowly winks. I snort. You're terrible. But she's right, you know. Relax, you'll do fine. You handled being crowned alright. This'll be a breeze. I hope so. If it's any comfort, he looked as nervous as this John kid. Yang gives me a friendly nudge before stepping off the platform at the edge of the carpet. On signal, the doors of the throne room open. I turn to ask Blake a question, but she already vanished. Presenting to Her Royal Majesty, Jean Arc of the Morning City Guard. There's the sound of trumpets, and John steps in, dressed in his armor, much shinier and a lot less bloody than yesterday. This is the one who turned the tide of battle? That reedy little boy? Really? Sershni, hush. Walking up to the throne, John stops right before the first step and kneels. His left hand grips at his side for a sword not there, eventually settling on his thigh, his right hand on his knee. One of the servants comes up to stand beside, and a little in front of me, an open book in hand. Breathing slow, I try to project my voice. It comes out weakly at first, but eventually Osmond gives me a small nod. We are gathered to recognize the service done for the kingdom by the one before us all. I call upon the Queen's Guard, Yang Xiaolong. Yang shifts the relaxed air she had only moments before giving way to a more serious one. Her bow is equally formal, but when she looks up again, a smile plays around her mouth. Your Majesty? Do you, Queen's Guard, vouch for this one spirit? I do. Jean Arc. He starts, surprised on his face, as well as a growing panic. Your Majesty. Your quick thinking and ingenuity save the lives of many, and for that you will be forever honored. He says his part of the script. It is an honor to serve, Your Majesty. Another servant steps forward with a small chest in hand. I gesture to him, and he opens it, presenting the newly minted contents to John. I can't help but laugh at his expression. Now I know what Yang saw in my face during my coronation. Will you also accept this as thanks for your good service? John gulps. When he tries to speak, no sound comes out of his mouth. It's only the second time that he manages, and even then his voice is a bit weak. That's a lot of money. So it's money. Well-earned money. No amount of money can bring back the dead, after all. Will you accept? Yes, Your Majesty. He takes the chest with care, closing it after staring a bit longer. He places it at his side before turning his attention back to me. Trying not to smile too big in case he thinks I'm laughing at him, I motion to the servants. They bow in perfect unison before stepping off the platform and joining the people standing near the walls of the room. John looks about in confusion. Definitely not expecting this. Traditionally, when one of the guard is found worthy of this award, they are promoted to a commander of their peers. Today we're doing something a little different, Jean Arc. Your Majesty, would you, Jean Arc, like to become part of Queen's Guard? Queen's Guard? I'm not sure I can do that. I mean, it's an honor, but I don't have any training in it. I've only ever been in the City Guard, and only a few years, and there are others who've been doing it longer than me. He speaks fast, his voice failing and cracking. All the blood seems to have drained from his face. Yang would teach you if you took it up. He gulps. Is that an order, Your Majesty? Order? No. It's supposed to be a reward. If you would rather be raised in rank within the guard, though, that can be arranged. I look over to Osmond to confirm, and he nods. But Jean shakes his head and draws all eyes back to him. No, I'll do it. He closes his eyes, taking a deep breath. When he opens them again, he seems calmer, a little more like when I first saw him. My sword is the kingdom's, to sharpen and guide. I recognize his words as the ones from the normal ceremony, words of acceptance. Then rise, John Arc, as Queen's Guard. There's scattered clapping mixed in with stomps and whoops of the guards present. Jean stands a little stiff, but does his best bow to me. There's a small feast after the ceremony to celebrate our victory over the Grimm. People are happy. We all are. We managed to rout the Grimm, to win a battle against them. I can't help but grin and laugh, and Yang pulling me this way and that to talk to guards certainly isn't helping. This is nice music. The Knights Offaland are the rowdiest I've seen them as well. Sir Gallius the Gold engages one of the castle guard in a drinking contest that soon has the whole hall swept up in a fever, shouts and screams of encouragement bouncing off the walls. It feels like I'm back with the Xiaolong clan, honestly. I reach under my shirt to hold the talisman, feeling warm and happy. A few places away, John's talking with one of the knights. Oddly, despite the ceremony being over, he still seems agitated, even as he smiles and talks. Oh, this is the first time we're seeing a sprite of, one of Sir Shnee's knights, Agravain the Violent. Don't forget the little people when you're up there with the ones in charge, eh? Right. I've got to say, for you to have made an impression like this on Her Majesty, you must be a mage of considerable power. Or wait, perhaps it's your semblance. Though I didn't think it was possible, John gets even paler. My semblance? Yeah, it's a good one. Gotten me through a lot. He doesn't have a semblance yet, just like the show. Well, actually his semblance did get revealed in Volume 5, so kind of starting from pre-Volume 5. What is it, if you don't mind me asking, of course? I don't talk much about it. It's private. Oh, so you keep it under wraps to maintain the element of surprise. That's intense. Not many men have that kind of self-control. But I'm sure you know that. And also John's face right now. That's so funny. Gotta keep up the air of mystery, you know. Ladies love a man of secrets. Agravain the Violet flashes John a toothy smile. Not just the ladies, guardsman. Ah, okay. Unless that's how you prefer things to be. Well, I mean, usually not. Oh. I mean, usually there's not a... It's very warm in here, isn't it? The flush of victory? You've had a very exciting day, after all. Something like that. Sorry, I just gotta go to the privy, like, right now, immediately. Okay, bye. Very interesting. Jean tilts his head to the side, giving Agravain an apologetic smile before quickly taking off. Weird. An uneasy feeling sprouts and grows in my chest, and I start after him. Ruby, where you going? Getting some fresh air. I'll be back fast. Promise. Three of the castle guard walk with me once I've gotten out, and together we follow Jean's fast-fading footsteps. We catch up with him in one of the towers overlooking the eastern part of the city, him rubbing a hand through his hair and muttering under his breath. I motion for my castle guards to stand by the top of the stairs so we have a little privacy. You know, this isn't the best way to get to the privy. He jumps, spins. At the sight of me, he stumbles and hastily salutes, tripping over his feet a bit. Your Majesty, why are you... You seem stressed, and I just thought maybe you'd want someone to talk to. Forgive me for saying this, Your Majesty, but... But what? You, don't sound very royal? Queenly? Compared to the ceremony, I mean. Kings and queens, you don't expect them to ask how you're doing, I guess. Well, the ceremony, that was one thing. And for the royal manner, I guess I can't be like that all the time. It's tiring. Does that make sense? I understand it, yes. Thank you, Your Majesty, for telling me. So what's bothering you? For a few moments he remained silent, uncertainty clear in his face. I need to be honest with you, Your Majesty. I'm not the soldier everyone thinks I am. But your idea with Grimm? No, that was me. If nothing else, I can plan. But I'm honestly no good for much else. I don't think I understand what you're trying to say, John. There's nothing to understand. You made a mistake. I'm no good. I can't be your Queen's Guard. There's nothing special about me. I'm just a regular person. I'm useless. But your semblance? That's just it. I don't even have a semblance. No one ever taught me how to use it at home. No one was around to do that. Oh. Crescent Rose comes to mind. How much easier would things have been if my parents were around to help me? I know what that's like. Guess we're kinda in the same boat, huh? I nod. I wonder how his family ended up like mine, but don't ask. It's a bit much for our first proper conversation. Alright, understatement. Other people never realized that you didn't know how to use it, I mean. They all just assumed, I guess. I could usually manage to pretend and just think my way through. Things turned out well, and I never bothered correcting them. I was someone. People listen more. Guess that ends here, though, huh? Nope. Oh, it's a callback to the first season. The conversation between Jean and Ruby in the hallway. That's nice. What? You lied about what you could do on the field and so put the other guards at risk. That's true. But as you said, you planned and as far as I know, overcame such risks, and that's what we need. You stared down a horde of Grimm with nothing but your sword to protect you, and you stood at my side. That, if nothing else, qualifies you to be one of my Queen's Guard. You clearly can fight, to have survived without being able to use aura, so really, once you learn how, you'll be even stronger. You'll have someone teach me? Your Majesty. I think I can arrange it. One of the perks of being queen. What do you say? Does that appeal to you? It does. Thank you, Your Majesty. One condition, though. And that is? Call me Ruby, please, outside of formal things. What? But, Your Majesty... That's an order, Sean. I mean, you don't have to if it really bothers you, but I'd really like us to be friends, and... He smiles, slow, hesitant, a bit of the uncertainty fading. Ruby? Aw. Jean, let's do our best. He bows, looking far happier and more at ease than ever. As Your Majesty wishes. Alright, so that was a fun little segment. We got to see some pretty good dialogue between Ruby and Jean, and a little bit of those Lancaster feels for anyone who's into that ship. I'm not really into it, but hey, it was written well. Far better than anything I've seen in the show so far. Other than that one hallway talk in season 1. That was pretty good. But then after that, it kind of just... You never really had that anymore, so... But yeah, that scene with Ruby and Jean just now was pretty good. I like that. It's a new day. What do you want to do? We stayed in the castle for one day, and that was when we were exploring the castle, and then we had that premonition about Yang, so maybe today we should spice things up a little bit and open a portal to another plane? Let's see how that turns out. This is it, the last portal. Ooh, who should I take with me? Alright, so we only have one portal left, and I'm trying to think. This might be Pura's portal then, I think. Alright. So last time we took Weiss, our friendship with Yang, I want to say, is good because we already have that foundation built between us. So maybe this time we should take Blake. Ready to open the last portal, I ride at the head of the party this time. We arrive earlier than the last 2 times. dragon monks are still getting settled into the castle. And though I don't want to admit it, after all I've learned from them, I need a short break from Ren and Nora. Just looking at them makes my head spin from the uncomfortable truths they've presented to me. I don't make any conversation with my riding partners. When the door to the curia finally grinds open, I'm chomping at the bit. The mages welcome us with their usual stony silence. Tensing up in preparation for this ceremony, I'm sweating at the thought of Crescent Rose being channeled through my body one more time. Only one portal remains. Let's hurry up and do this. I'm ready. Alright, let's hope you are. The last portal takes more out of me than ever before. Standing still and upright while the power of Crescent Rose escapes me is impossible. Looping an arm around my waist, Lake supports me as my knees threaten to buckle. She doesn't say a word. I take solace in her quiet strength. I'm not acting very queenly today, sorry. I remember the way she looked at me when I first saw her, resonating her own sort of nobility. I bet someone like you would have no trouble with this. No. Anyone would have trouble with this. You're not weak, Ruby. Admitting pain isn't weak. It's agony, but it doesn't hurt. It's overwhelming, burning, clawing at the back of my skull. You've gotten better at this. That voice again. Another surge of power wipes out all thoughts. I am so sure that I'll fail, that I'll claw the bindings off my wrist before the ceremony is complete. Just as I reach my limit, the mage gives the signal and tugs his end of the string. Let go of me! Once Blake removes her support, I fall down, a trembling mess on the floor. On all fours, I gasp and wheeze, desperately ripping the cord off. It feels burned into my skin, and I'm surprised to see it hasn't left a mark. This is a very good still right here. The magic had been so intense, I thought for sure I had been branded for life. Are you sure you wish to continue? Delaying it won't solve anything. I can feel them, the two I've already opened, and now this one too. They drain from me to keep awake. How did my parents do this for years? Getting to my feet, I glare at the last remaining portal, an unfamiliar rasp and grimness in my voice. Oh. We're finishing this. Whoa, her eyes turn black and red. I don't know if that's a good sign. Whether that's Crescent Rose coming through or something else. This time, I'll be accompanying you. I expect Glinda to protest, but she just nods. Spiritus Bellatorum hasn't been in communication with us for years. The last we heard of them, they were in the depths of civil war. Is it safe for me to go through without you? She crosses her arms, and I'm shocked to see a faint blush spread across her cheeks. I'm going to trust that Ozpin and Blake will be enough, since I am incapable of crossing through this portal. What? Really? Be honest with the girl, Glinda. She shoots him a burning glare. Fine, I can, but I don't want to. Satisfied? Suddenly, it hits me. That's right, magic doesn't work in Spiritus Bellatorum. My semblance is mainly used for infiltration. I'll be fine so long as Her Majesty doesn't have any pressing need for me to attempt any burglary. I would never make you do something like that, Blake! Oh, that's so cute. Just Ruby's, face, her surprised expression, and then Blake's smug look. Oh, that's great. Really? Because it's on the table if you ever need it. Oh, that was so cute. Taking the lead, I step forward into the portal. At once, my feet are lifted from the ground. On instinct, I close my eyes. My whole body buzzes, but not uncomfortably, and when I hear the sound of my boots hitting solid ground again, I blink and look around me. It's a disheartening sight. This place is in ruins. What happened here? I imagine a place like this could be a strategic point for the battles waged. Control of the portals meant control of trade. If the portals were open, maybe. Since most of the stairs are broken, I hop down from the dais onto the main temple floor. At least I think it's a temple. Or it used to be a temple. I have to keep my wits about me to avoid fissures in the ground. Some of them are so big and so deep I can't see the bottom. Looks more like the work of an earthquake than an invading army. Regardless, they should know someone has come through the portal. They will send a diplomat soon. They won't attack us, right? I mean, it's not like we're part of their civil war. No one would ever attack a human who goes through a portal. To do so violates the hospitality laws set down thousands of years ago. It would be a cause for all-out war between the planes. Something's not right here. Even if the opposing forces decide to follow the rules, war always creates smaller factions who are desperate for any remaining power. Right now, from the outside, I'd say we look like a very appetizing, unguarded snack. If we sent through more than a handful of people for the first encounter, we would be violating the hospitality laws. I share your reservations, but right now we must be patient. We'll wait for a little bit longer. If nothing happens, we'll return. A little jittery still, I start to explore the ruins. This area looks a bit like where we keep the minor portals back home. There's abandoned supplies here and there, scavengers carted off everything useful or edible, but there's still pottery and art pieces, things you might expect in a small market. I find a case behind what used to be a shopkeeper's stall. It's locked shut, but a quick twist and pop with the tip of little thorn gets it open. Oh no. Something's really wrong here. Osmond, come take a look at this. He strides over and I see my own shock reflected on his face. Precious strings of pearl and jewels run through my fingers, loose as sand. Why would they leave this here? Why didn't anyone come back? Standing up straight, I back away from the crate. Osmond does the same. Osmond, we need to leave, right now. I agree. Come on, let's... As I approach the portal, the rumbles start. Run! The three of us break into a sprint. We hadn't wandered too far from the portal, but even so, we don't have time to make it back before the first quake knocks us off our feet. The ground splits right underneath my boots. As I plummet, I try to activate my semblance for a gust of wind to boost me up, but all it does is summon a brief burst of rose petals. Ruby! Her chains rattle, looping around my wrists in an instant before I fall too far. Bracing herself on the precipice, Blake hauls me back up until I can get a foot on the edge. Thank you, Blake. Her arms wrap around my waist, pulling me back so sharply we collapse onto the ground together. Sitting up on top of her, I grin. Nice catch, Belladonna. Her palm covers my entire face as she pushes me aside, standing up with a scowl. Don't you take anything seriously? Oh, oops. Osmond reaches us, his limping exacerbated by the stress as he supports himself on his cane. Ruby, are you unharmed? I'm fine. Let's just get out of here while we still can. The ground rumbles again, accompanied by a new, strange, roaring noise. Wait. That noise! I've heard it before. I know I have. Somewhere deep in the darkest parts of my dreams, terrifyingly low and persistent, the rumble grows louder and louder. I try to find the will to run away, but I'm rooted to the spot. Oh shit. A beastly paw reaches over the edge of the fissure, muscles flexing as its claws dig deep into the dirt. What manner of Grimm is that? Another paw grips the ground. Dappled orange fur lined with black stripes covers every inch of skin. I take another step back. That is not a Grimm. It's not? Then what is it? The beast pulls itself out of the fissure. The orange fur peters out along its spine, marred by thick black scales interspersed with the familiar white and red bone plating of the Grimm. Fixing all 8 of its eyes on us, it crouches low, maw opening wide in a shrieking growl. And then 6 more monsters clamber up the edge of the precipice. Winding the chains around her forearm, Blake widens her stance, preparing herself for anything. Don't turn around, but there's more between us and the portals as well. I feel his back bump against mine as we try to keep together. What are they? I don't know. One of them lunges. I shout and try to keep my ground, not wanting to leave Osmond's back undefended. I thrust a little thorn forward, crashing aside a swipe. of wild claws before driving it through the beast's open mouth and into its skull. Pulling back, my small entourage makes slow progress towards the portal as the beasts begin to prowl around us, searching for a weak spot. Ruby, you're the fastest. I want you to make for the portal as quick as you can while we would distract them. But I can't just... He's right. We can't afford to lose you, Ruby. Get out of here. No. At my shout, 3 of the beasts leap forward on all sides. There's a flurry of motion, and then... Archers, focus on the stragglers. Don't aim too close to the center. You might hit a person. In a rush, a hail of arrows and javelins come hurtling down from unseen heights. Armor and leather and steel clatter in the empty ruins as a small squadron of soldiers come to our aid, leaping from broken pillars and rushing the monsters. In the chaos, I don't pause to think until the ground is clear and the monsters pile up around us in bloody heaps. There she is, Pyranikos. A woman runs up to me. She wrestles with her helmet for a bit before sweeping it off, meeting my eyes in an intense gaze. Oh, thank goodness you're unharmed. She claps a hand on my shoulder, squeezing it tightly. Yes, thanks to you. Who are you? Straightening up, the soldier tucks her helmet under one arm and gives me a stiff bow. Pyranikos, captain of the remaining forces. Uh-oh, remaining forces? That's a bit worrying. We honestly didn't think you would come. The portals have been closed so long. Some of her military precision softens, a fine thread of panic loosening her discipline. How many soldiers do you have standing at the ready? What? I understand contact needed to be established first, but now that the connection is secure, we can start mobilizing troops, yes? Wait, what? She wipes the sweat from her forehead, and I can see now that she's covered in a fine layer of dirt and grime. All of the soldiers are. And dust. Dust too. We're in desperate need of more. Hold on, slow down. I'm not following. Of course, I apologize. The message we sent out probably didn't describe the entire situation. We didn't have much time, so... What message? She looks from Ozpin to me with dawning despair. You didn't come to help us, did you? We actually were hoping you would help us. Pyrrha laughs, shortly and without humor. Obviously, that will have to wait. Your situation is much more dire than ours. All the gods bless you. Who are you? I'm Queen Ruby Rose of Vale. I opened the portal to seek your aid against the encroaching Grimm. Pyrrha's eyes widen slightly. She bows again, but this time on one knee. Your Majesty, it's an honor, but we cannot stay here long exchanging pleasantries. She stands and puts her helmet back on. If you'd like to discuss that further, we must do it while in a safe location. Ruby, go with Captain Nikos back to her camp. I'll return in 10 hours with reinforcements. He nudges a corpse near his foot, flexing out the stiffening jaw to reveal rows of teeth. Lots of them. And then, quieter now, he speaks to me. Unless you'd rather leave and I stay. No, let me do it. I'll be safe with Pyrrha's soldiers around me. Ruby. Despite our technical difference in rank, his authoritative tone makes me snap to attention. Yes, sir? Lowering his voice, he presses a hand to the small of my back and steers me away from the others. Spiritus Bellatorum is our staunchest ally. Regain their trust. Of course, even in a war zone, we have to think about diplomacy. Yes, sir. Thank you for trusting me. Okay, so it sounds like Spiritus Bellatorum is still in the depths of a civil war. I'm wondering who the other rival faction is. The air is thick and musky down in the tunnel, heavy with the smell of earth and mildew. Slamming the hatch shut, Pyrrha slides down the ladder after us, kicking up a cloud of dust as she lands. Follow me. Keep close. We head off down the tunnel, ignoring the sounds of the monsters clawing at the bronze hatch above us. Oh, so they were right on our tails. That's creepy. The place is built like a maze, but Pyrrha somehow knows the right path leading us down one twisting turn after another. What is this place? One of our ancient rulers built these tunnels beneath the city. No one's entirely sure why. Some people think it was an escape route, or an auxiliary sewage system. Others go with the theory that it was a dungeon for more unruly prisoners. There's one camp that swears she hid her greatest treasure down in these tunnels. Doesn't matter much now. Whatever they were meant for, they're the only thing keeping our people safe. As she talks, the light flickers, and the tunnel's shadows slide over her eyes. Just for a second, her expression changes, and I can see the wariness etched into the lines of her face. When the shadows pass, the look is gone, vanishing as quickly as it came. Smiling over her shoulder, Pyrrha waves for us to follow once more. You're sure those things can't follow us down here? Not easily. I've never seen one small enough to fit. Okay. What were those monsters, exactly? A few years after the portals closed, a war broke out with one of the mainland city-states. I think they claimed we were limiting their access to the portals. Restricting contact with other planes forced them to be reliant on us. So it's our fault. My fault. The portal shut down because there wasn't a rose on the throne. As soon as the words leave my mouth, Pyrrha looks back at me with that wary smile of hers. Hardly. This had been a long time coming. The portal shutting down just made for a convenient excuse. A thought occurs to me. Who maintains your portals? Priests. Unarmed priests. Not exactly what I meant. But if Spiritus Bellatorum has a special person with a connection to their portal, Pyrrha might not know about it. Just like how Weiss doesn't know who maintains the Mishglass portals. It was bloody. Both sides lost a lot of lives. Eventually, a few of our alchemists thought they found a way to limit the casualties. They created those creatures to fight on the front lines. Ooh, that's not good. Wait, you people made those things? They're called Chimera, and yes, we did. You have to understand, the war had been going on for years. The Chimera were the army's new end-all weapon, the one the enemy would stand no chance of stopping. To their credit, it worked. Having a nightmare monster charging at you makes holding the line fairly difficult. Within the week, we were finally turning the tide of the war. And then, predictably, it all went horribly wrong. At the time, I was a brigade captain in charge of the Western Wall. I watched as the first ones changed. They stopped following their trainers' commands. They became something else. They became Grimm. Not all at once. Our alchemists guessed it might be some sort of disease, a side effect from modifying the creatures over and over again. They tried to quarantine the infected, but it was too little, too late. What had been our protectors turned into those armored monsters. Hundreds died on that first day alone. Should I say anything? Oh, this is tough. Like, I think Pyrrha respects us to an extent right now. Like, I don't want to, like, come off as someone who, like, sounds like they care, but they couldn't really possibly care because they weren't there. This is tough. Let's go with comfort her. You couldn't have known. Oh, yep, wrong answer. Wrong answer. We should have. Someone should have. Maybe, but not you. You don't really have the whole Mother of Monsters vibe, so I'm guessing you didn't have a hand in making them. Maybe it was a mistake, but it wasn't your mistake. She's right. You can't hold yourself responsible for the actions of others. Perhaps, but it was still my people who created the Chimera to begin with, and now both sides of the conflict suffer for it. So, how did you all end up in the tunnels? We were already using them as shelters during the war, and the Chimera went rogue. We just made sure the civilians could hide here as well. Still, it can't be comfortable living down here. It's not ideal, but we make do. Really? I can't imagine hiding lots of people in such a cramped space. Wow. As soon as the words leave my mouth, the tunnel comes out into a massive corridor. The ceiling is 2, maybe 3 stories high, and the room goes on, farther than I can see in the dim torchlight. Tents and canopies are everywhere, propped up against makeshift doors of wood or metal. Shanties line the walls, packed between blocked-off tunnels leading away from the main thoroughfare. You could fit half your army down here, and then some. Where do all these tunnels go? Nowhere. Not now, at least. Most of them are walled off. We turned some of the larger sections into living spaces or storage areas. Whatever we needed, really. Come on, there's someone you need to meet. Pyrrha leads us through the makeshift town, smiling and nodding as people look up or poke their heads out of the nearby tunnels as we pass by. As we get closer, I start to notice the smell, the stench of hundreds of unwashed bodies living in close quarters for years on end. Oh boy. Pyrrha leads us to one of the larger tents, resting squarely in the middle of the corridor. Poking her head under the flap, she waves for us to enter, then ducks inside. The tent is dark and musky. A few people are huddled around a makeshift table made of a long plank of wood lying across a barrel. Various plans, maps, and notes lie strewn across the surface, and suddenly I find myself thinking about my own meetings with Glinda back home. A woman stands at the center of the table, a red stole of office draped across her shoulders. Archon, can I have a moment? Unless you're here to tell me that you've found an unspoiled stash of grain, I'm afraid whatever you need will have to wait. Archon Krios, this is the Queen of Vale, Ruby Rose. The Archon freezes when Pyrrha says my name and turns slowly to face the captain. The letters! They really did make it through. How many men did you bring? Did they follow you into the tunnels? Where are they stationed? How soon can they be ready for an assault on the Chimera? The woman starts babbling almost faster than I can keep up with. Well, about that. While we explain, I watch as the Archon's expression goes from hopeful to disappointed to outright resigned. By the end of it, she slumps back in her chair, running her face in her hands. You come here seeking aid, only to find us in dire straits ourselves. I'm sorry, Your Majesty. I understand the danger Vale is in, and I would like nothing more than to honor our treaties, but as you can see, you have your own problems. That would be putting it mildly. The Archon spares a glance at the tent flap, as if reassuring herself that no one is lurking near the entrance, their ear pressed against the cloth. We are running on borrowed time. We have access to water, but our food stores are nearly empty. If we ration them to last as long as possible, and everyone takes the bare minimum, we might be able to make our supplies last 3 more weeks. Wow. Literally the same reaction I have as Pyrrha. 3 weeks? The last estimate I heard was 3 months. That was before we discovered a leak in one of the storerooms. Seawater seeped in. Oh no. It doesn't matter. Even if we weren't trapped underground without trade through the portal or from the mainland, we were bound to run out of food sooner or later. This has never been an area fit for farming. I take it you have a plan? This is a terrible thing to say. Obviously, if they had a plan, they would think about it. And they know more about the situation than we do. Maybe there's something we can do. Maybe we can help. The portals are open now. If we can get your people to the gate, I'd be happy to take them back to Vale. The thought is appreciated, Your Majesty, but the Chimera would pick us off the second they realized what we were doing. We don't have enough troops to protect the hundreds of people down here. Our reinforcements from Vale could escort them. We'd still be risking innocent lives. You have no idea the kind of cunning these monsters possess, Your Majesty, and your troops don't have experience fighting them. But I think we have another option. Over the last few years, the Chimera kept changing. No matter how many we kill, there's always a new one to take its place, and sometimes they don't match any version we've seen before. They're breeding? Exactly. We had their nest narrowed down to a few areas, but after their attack on you, I think we've finally found them. If the fissure they poured out of leads back to their nest, there's only one place they could be hiding in. There used to be an old military factory not too far from the gate. It's deep underground, dark and damp, isolated. The perfect place to raise a horde of monsters. Then what are we waiting for? With enough rope, we can probably rappel down that fissure and into their lair, surprise them from above. We could, if you want to take the risk. There's also a nice and probably safer set of access tunnels that lead down into the facility. Or we could do that. The conversation turns to troop deployments, leaving Blake and me a little out of the loop, at least until the Archon starts asking us about Beacon's forces, mainly exactly how many soldiers Ozpin's likely to bring back with him. We answer as best as we can, and then the two other women turn back to their maps. The next few hours are filled with strategy and tactics discussions, trying to figure out what the best way to get us and Ozpin's backup down into the tunnels without being attacked. I can't help but yawn as I slump into one of the chairs near the tent wall. Between opening the portal, fighting the chimeras, and making the trek through the tunnels, I'm completely out of juice. Someone calls my name, and I open my eyes to find Pyrrha looking down at me. Are you alright? Yeah, opening the portal takes a lot out of me, and each one gets a little harder than the last one. It's fine, I just need to sit for a second. I think what you need is sleep. No, we need to be ready for when Ozpin comes back. I'd say we're about as ready as we'll ever be. Captain, make sure they're rested. I want you and your people heading out before the sun rises. As you say, ma'am. Come on, I'll find you all a place to sleep. It's a short walk to Pyrrha's tunnel. It looks almost identical to the others I've seen, covered with an old plank of wood for a door. With a nod of her head, Pyrrha slides the door aside and lets us in. It's a small space, taking advantage of a bend in the tunnel to make a series of rooms. A moth-eaten mattress sits against one wall, a well-washed blanket tucked neatly around it. It's not really a place fit for a queen. Trust me, I've slept in far worse. This is actually pretty nice. Thank you. There should be a spare bedroll or two around here somewhere. We managed to find enough bedding that no one has to actually sleep on the floor. Blake looks around for an empty spot, brushing a patch of dust aside before settling her bedroll down on the floor. Let's go check on Pyrrha. I find Pyrrha sitting outside her home, crouched by one of the fires and staring up at the unlit roof. Pulling my cloak tighter around me, I slide down next to her, wrapping my arms around my knees while flames dance and die before us. Couldn't sleep? The ground too hard? I lived as a desert nomad for 7 years. One night on the ground won't kill me. Pyrrha gives me an odd look as I say that, her brow furrowed as she stares at me from across the tunnel. Do I have something in my teeth? No, you are not what I imagined. What were you expecting? She leans back against one of the walls, eyes staring off into the distance as she loses herself in her own thoughts. I heard tales of the last Rose Queen when I was a child, the ruler of the plane that ties us all together. They said she was as beautiful as the flower her house was named for. With hair like fire and eyes the color of storms, that she was a vision of the battlefield, a whirlwind of deadly grace. Yeah, that's a thing. Do they still say stuff like that? To be fair, I've also heard that she was 7 feet tall, dressed by birds in the morning, and rode a dragon into battle. The stories are a bit grandiose. Sounds more like my mother than it does me. But I do have a dragon that I ride into battle with. Really? Well, they're Yang's dragons, but she lets me borrow one sometimes. Pyrrha starts laughing. It's a nice sound, clear and bright, a huge difference from everything else that's happened today. It's true. Pyrrha's laugh sounds just the best. Still, I bet some of your subjects look at you and see their own titan in shining armor. Although I think that I prefer the ruler who can survive sleeping a night on the ground. Before I can say anything, she stands, brushing herself off before heading back inside. Rest while you can, Ruby. There will be plenty of time for heroics in a few hours. Alright, so I think I found the perfect place to take a break, and we'll pick things up on the next episode. But for this segment that we just played through, This is very, very interesting. We finally met Pyrrha, opened up the third and final portal, and only to discover that, Pyrrha's plane is not rocked by civil war. It's actually a war for survival now against the Chimera. So I'm very interested and nervous to see what happens next. Out of the 3 planes that we've entered and, explored, this sounds like the one that's the most treacherous, because the plane of Mishklas and then Heping, they both didn't have like a lot of conflict. It was just a kind of like straight diplomacy. But this one, the stakes are super high, it seems. So we'll find out. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode of Ruby Summer Rose Court. Until then.
You so fucking precious when you smile. Yeah. Girl, I lose myself up in those eyes.